San Diego Global Knowledge University.
The 20th century will be remembered as the century dominated by economics. The main goals pursued in the last century were economic growth and international competitiveness. The idea was that all other problems would be solved if we met these two goals. For most of the world, and for most of this century, it seemed like that idea was a good one. Humans certainly lived longer, with better health, and on average with more wealth at the end of that century than at the beginning. The activities in at least the case studies mentioned earlier don't seem to have very clear or well-defined goals. What is the goal, for example, of the human body? What is the purpose of the internet? What is clear is that the different parts of a business need to work together really well. If they don't, the business won't last. Think about it. If the organs in your body or termites in a colony fought each other, it wouldn't work out for them. While we can't ignore how much these different parts cooperate, these three examples also show how important each individual part is. This highlights how crucial it is for everyone involved to understand and do what's expected of them. Your body can't work if your kidneys don't filter out waste, right? The internet would stop existing if people weren't creating their own websites and putting them up online. The big focus on money goals in businesses these days hasn't been without some criticism. Looking ahead, when we think about what other ways organizations could be set up, besides the usual company model, and how we could make those happen, it's clear that the economic boom of the 20th century was a big deal for many countries. The world's population ended that century with higher average incomes and better health than when it began. However, it's also clear that many problems have either popped up or gotten worse because we've focused so much on just economic success. Many people around the world have suggested different ideas. Some have tried to change big economic measures, like the gross domestic product, to also include social and environmental stuff. Others are trying to make the traditional company model more friendly for families and the environment. Still others are looking at how new technology could help people get more involved when important decisions that affect everyone need to be made. To be successful in the 21st century, we'll need totally different ways of thinking than what worked well in the 20th century. The three key things for future success are making good decisions, taking care of our planet, and sticking together as a society. These ideas can help us tackle the main challenges we're facing right now. As I looked into some of these challenges, I was really surprised by all the different ways people are thinking about how organizations can work, but I was also surprised by how hard it can be for us to really get on board with new ideas about working together and actually make changes in how we do things. However, we recently found a new way of thinking, a conceptual model that helps us understand and even evaluate some of these ideas about teamwork and how to organize productive work. This model was first thought up by scientist Arthur Koestler in his groundbreaking 1969 book called The Ghost in the Machine. But it was really developed much further by Ken Wilber from the US, who wrote about it in his 1987 book, A Brief History of Everything. Ken Wilber, who is also a spiritualist and a Buddhist, has an amazing way of explaining really complicated things clearly. This model tries to figure out how things are put together in general. It gives us a way to think about how any organization is structured and helps explain its vision and goals. The core of this model is something called a holon. It's a unit of organization that has two main features. A holon is a complete unit on its own, but at the same time it's also part of a bigger unit. An example will always help us understand this idea. An atom is a holon. It's a unit by itself, even though it's made up of smaller things that are also holons, as we'll see later. And at the same time, it's part of bigger units that we call molecules. You can study an atom by itself to learn about its features. These features are very stable and predictable, but an atom can also be studied as part of a molecule. Even though it keeps its original features as an atom, these can change when it combines with other atoms. A molecule can also be studied as its own thing, and its features can be described. These features will include those of other atoms in some ways, but they will also be unique to the molecule. The point of this model is to show that nature organizes everything in a holonic way. This means everything in nature is a holon. For example, the human body is built from atoms and molecules to create organs and systems, eventually forming a complete and distinct living being. Another example is words. They are units in themselves with their own meanings. However, they are made up of letters, which are also units on their own. And words are also part of bigger units like phrases, texts, and books. However, many things humans create aren't like holonic poles, Especially some of our organizational and social structures seem to exist all by themselves. They don't necessarily connect only with other structures. In fact, corporations are often made on purpose to stand alone, separate not just from the people who work inside them, but also from other companies they compete fiercely with. The people who make up these corporations often feel like they have to bring only part of themselves to work and leave another part at home. On a social level, many of us feel isolated and alone. We feel like we have to defend ourselves without help from others, and we don't see how our organizational and productive roles fit into a bigger picture. Why is it that we seem to be able to work only in certain situations and not others? Maybe there's a history lesson here. Truly Hellenic human structures like language and family ties have been with us for thousands of years. For example, we've been improving and shaping our use and understanding of language for maybe 50,000 years. On the other hand, our corporate and organizational structures for work are perhaps only about 200 years old. Also, language is everywhere, shared by all of us, while participation in work and employment has been limited to only a few selected people for only part of their lives. The most effective organizations, including termite colonies, human bodies, and innovative corporations, now offer all of us a new chance for real teamwork that meets a need and ensures what's done fits with what others are doing. The human race once knew how to create these kinds of productive organizations that benefited most of their members. With the distance and time separating us, I can't know what role work plays in each of your lives. Some of you probably have a regular job, others work temporarily, or are students getting ready for a professional or technical career. Some of you, I'm sure, own businesses that employ others, and still others are teachers or instructors dedicated to training people for work. In any of these cases, I'm sure I'm right to assume that the work environment for everyone is changing in some way, and that in 3 or 4 more years, it will change even more dramatically. These changes are happening and will continue to affect us for many reasons, because of the globalization of industries and countries, because of technological changes, like the use of the internet, because more and more, work is done with the mind and not physically, because workers, especially young people, value their personal development more than before, because of the fast and constant process of socioeconomic change that we all live through, and because consumers of products and services, not the providers, have now taken over commercial power. The result of all this is clear. Our future at work will be very different from what we've seen in recent years. So, how should we handle this change? If we keep working and acting the way we always have, things won't go well for us. It won't just be those already struggling in the job market who face difficulties. In fact, the people who were most successful in the past will have the hardest time with the new reality of work. We can already see this shift when we look at the leaders of new internet companies and the managers of today's most dynamic corporations. Most of them are very different from the successful executives and managers of yesterday. Similarly, everyday workers who now know how to use changes in their work environment to become more productive tend to be very different from the simply good and disciplined employees of yesterday. If you're interested in getting ready for tomorrow, there are a few things you can do right now to help yourself. Based on different studies about how people handle change, we recommend 4 basic things. First, you need to know what you can offer to this new work environment and how to find a client who needs what you can provide. Second, you need to learn how to build a relationship with that client, a relationship that benefits both of you. You might be an employee or not, but that matters less than whether you're adding value to what the client does. Third, you need to plan your future as if you were a small business, creating a business plan, not just as a traditional employee worrying about your personal job future. And fourth, you need to get better at moving from one work situation to another without getting confused or becoming unproductive. For your success at work in the coming years, those who have these 4 skills will become leaders. Those who don't adopt them, even if they've been very successful in the past, will face big job difficulties. This is an era where the rules of the game are changing. When it comes to how much work gets done and the work environment, it's going to be very tough on those who keep doing things the old way. Nowadays, job security isn't just about having a steady position in a big, strong company with personal connections to protect you. Security is now about having something valuable to offer someone else. Companies don't need to compete with each other. It's too intense now for them to carry the weight of people who are just holding on to their jobs. More and more, jobs for workers will last only as long as they can offer their organizations something extra and valuable that those organizations need. And this won't be the case for as long as it used to be. So, in this new reality, we'll find that we need to move from one organization to another more often. The old idea of getting a job at your local phone company and working there for at least 40 years until retirement is fading away, and this is happening in all job sectors, even in government. But there are practical ways to successfully navigate this change. Let's start by figuring out exactly what each person has to offer the new job market, and how to find at least one client who needs what each person offers. In practical terms, it might be best to start by looking at the job market before figuring out what you offer, and then finding a place to offer it. In past years, the idea of job qualifications referred to the type and level of education and work experience people had. While some older organizations still hire based on this, more and more, we're seeing that organizations have realized now that the best person for any job might have studied something completely different and might not have any hands-on experience with the task required. So, they're now hiring people who truly want to do the job, who have the basic skills that job needs, who have the right personality for that specific workplace, and who have certain strengths or assets that the job requires, like being fluent in another language, having experience with government procedures, or being mature enough to handle new and tough situations. In the next 20 years, more and more people will be hired for specific jobs through temporary contracts, and for those employees who still want to work for one organization for a long time, they'll need special talent, motivation, and to fit in with that organization's values and work styles to make it happen. So, the first thing we all need to do to plan our future is to spend time, a good amount of time, thinking about these questions. First, what do I really want right now in my life? This will make you think about what truly motivates you. Second, what am I naturally good at, and for what purpose? We're not necessarily talking about professional or work skills here, but your everyday abilities that you've used to achieve what you have in your life so far. Third, you should ask yourself, what kind of person am I? To answer this, you need to figure out how you work best, what situations bring out the best in you, and how someone who values what you value would fit in best and be most productive. Fourth, and last, what unique qualities, special experiences, or specific types of knowledge do you have? Companies are no longer looking for traditional employees to solve their problems or meet their needs. They now understand the benefits of outsourcing work without needing to advertise a new position or hire someone permanently. This means that looking for a job within a company might not be the best way to get by anymore. Instead, it's about finding work you're interested in that people need and figuring out who will pay for what you do. In this situation, it's about finding a person or client with a need that isn't being met, or a problem that hasn't been solved instead of chasing after an organization that's trying to hire people for a specific job. A market is like any situation where one or more people have needs that aren't being met well right now. This could be because the need just came up due to some recent change in technology or business, so most people aren't even aware of it yet. Or it could be because the need can only be met with a special skill that most people around you don't have, but you do. Or maybe it's because a lot of people haven't seen that need as something valuable, because they're still doing things in their business the old way. In fact, figuring out an unmet need and showing that it exists will be more than half the battle. Finding these unmet needs is what entrepreneurs do, but often, they think on a bigger scale than you might want. They're interested in starting a new company, and some might even plan to sell it after it's grown in value a bit. On the other hand, doing the work someone needs done also requires something that a typical job doesn't demand. And this brings us to a second thing you need to be good at in the world of traditional jobs. You get hired, and as long as you don't mess things up or do anything dishonest, you're pretty much set. However, in this new world we're entering, you'll be hired to complete a project, so you really have to pay attention to doing it well. We also need to learn how to build good relationships with clients that help everyone. You might end up working for that client, or you might not, but that's not as important as adding value to what the client does, even if it's from the outside. In today's successful companies, people talk a lot about activities, and people that add value, and those that don't. You might think this is just another trendy business term, but it's not. In today's tough and global world, things that don't add value to what companies do for their customers probably won't be worth the cost and effort for very long. From an employee's point of view, getting fired after working for many years might seem unfair. However, from many employers' perspectives, someone who doesn't add value to the company as a whole is actually an unnecessary expense. If companies operated without competition and had lots of money, we might ask them to cover these costs for social reasons. But in today's world, that's a very tough request for any company, even government ones in any country. So if this is the case, It just makes sense for all workers to now try to understand the real and urgent needs of the company that pays them. Many successful companies around the world are already seeing this and giving their workers more information and training about their true needs. Obviously, the more workers at all levels know about their company, the more valuable contributions they can make. They will know what their company is trying to achieve as a whole, its needs, and its goals. These workers become 100 collaborators or partners, different from the traditional employee who just had to do what their bosses told them and nothing more. All over the world, people who work in traditional jobs are now learning to take on new, productive roles that will fit them into the new work environment. This way, they will all start to leave their old-style companies to get involved in more interesting and rewarding productive activities. Most business plans made today are to convince people to invest in a new idea, but really the main goal is to figure out what you have to offer and what the markets around you need. These aren't one-time tasks. Our environment changes, and so do our needs. Just like a business needs to keep updating its plans, creating new products and services, and finding better ways to use its resources, the worker of tomorrow, and even today, needs a personal plan for their future productive role. What kind of information or training could make you more valuable at work? Is there a type of work experience that won't automatically lead to a pay raise, but will help you be more qualified for a job with more responsibility? How long is your limit for staying in a job you don't like, or that isn't teaching you anything new? In the past, we'd commit to one company until retirement, but today's worker tends to switch jobs more often. If you have a good career advisor, you should talk about your current work situation with them. The last thing you need to succeed in a fast-changing work environment is the skill to efficiently handle the constant changes that will happen in organizations. The real challenge isn't just about keeping these changes from confusing you or making you less productive. It's about learning how to use these changing experiences as chances to do more interesting or promising things. Let's look at these two parts. When a change happens in your life, whether at work or at home, you enter a period of transition. That word means how you feel inside about a new situation. And that feeling or response actually starts in a very strange way. It begins with an ending, with letting go of how things used to be. And when the change is really big, it's even like saying goodbye to the person you once were. Change involves all the things that move requires: traveling to a new home, taking your most important things with you, finding a new place to live, and finding a new job to support yourself. But for this transition to work out well, you need to let go of your old life. If you don't, you might have successfully moved your body, but emotionally and mentally, you'd still be holding on to your old life. Most people talk more about change than about the idea of transition, but in reality, the problems that pop up when things change usually come from the transition process itself. Specifically, problems happen because people haven't gotten ready to let go and finish with the usual things from their past life. And this is definitely true with the changes we're seeing in the world of work right now. The trouble many people have with the new way of working isn't because there's no demand for what they do. It's because of their attitudes, beliefs, and the way they saw their place in a company structure that is now fading away. The real-life situations and limits they'll face will be different from culture to culture, but in every case, the main task should be the same. Instead of only focusing on what they need to learn or start doing new, they should begin by thinking about this: the basic question: what things do we need to let go of now? Or asking the same question in a different way: what has already ended? What is it time to say goodbye to in our lives and our work? Remember, holding on to the past is just as likely to make you fail as not understanding what the future holds. Now we'll talk about some things you can do to help you decide what we need to let go of. And by the way, these are also useful things for our personal lives. It's true that it takes a lot of effort to get used to this new way of working, but this new way of working isn't just for some. It's opening up a new future for everyone, with many chances to grow that didn't exist in the old traditional work world. It's important to point out that there are many things we can all do to help ourselves fit in better and do well in the new global job market. Let's remember the basic steps. First, you need to know what you have to offer in this new work reality and how to find a client who needs it. Just remembering the jobs you've had to fill out a traditional job application won't be enough anymore. Second, you now need to build a good working relationship with your client that truly benefits both of you, and clearly explain how you add value to what the client does. Third, it will help you if you start now to think about your productive future. as if you were a small business creating a business plan, and not like a traditional employee worried about your job. And finally, you're going to go through personal transition stages more often than before. So, you need to learn how to handle these transitions, moving from one work situation to another without getting confused or losing productivity. People who learn how to do these things will be very successful. Many leaders are already doing it. Many of them will even create their own strategies for personal excellence and value. They'll achieve top performance in the new work environment that's popping up all over the world. Even though this new work reality will look a little different in each region or country, if you creatively use the suggestions we've talked about for your own personal situation, you'll surely see good results in the future. Conclusion. So, in a nutshell, today's work world really needs us to be able to change on purpose. We need to move from feeling safe in our jobs to feeling safe because of the value we bring. In this whole class, we learned 4 big things. 1. How different organization structures come together, and where their limits are. 2. New ideas inspired by super-efficient teamwork systems. 3. The need to update what success means to us, focusing on good decisions, being kind to the earth, and sticking together as a community. And 4. A holonic model to help us understand how the small parts and the big whole fit together in living organizations. On a practical level, the path is clear. Honestly figure out what you offer, build relationships that add value, plan your future like it's a small business, and manage your changes with a clear method. Anyone who really gets these 4 skills will handle change with more productivity, meaning, and toughness. Take these ideas and apply them to your life right now. Turn what you learned today into things you can actually do this week. That's where the real impact begins.
San Diego Global Knowledge University, education beyond boundaries.